Alright guys, welcome back to Frugal Homestead. So today I thought I'd bring you along as we are harvesting some of our ground cherries. Now I made a post about this on Facebook and some of the homesteading groups, and a lot of people didn't know what they were. I'm really bad with pronunciation, so if I pronounce this wrong, I'm sorry. But they are in the Tomatilla family, nightshade family. Ground cherry is not a fruit. It's not actually a cherry. It's a relative to a tomato. If I was going to try and explain it to you, I'd be trying to tell you that it's a mix of sweet and savory is the taste. A lot of people, depending upon the variety, will say it's a cross between like a cherry tomato and pineapple or some other kind of citrus. Now, these are big in like Europe countries. We kind of have lost them around here in the Americas. It's not as prevalent as it used to be. Pretty easily identified, honestly, and very prolific. They grow in the worst of conditions. Now, I bought my seeds from M.I. Gardener, and I'll be honest, we started them in cups with our tomatoes indoors, and they didn't come up. So, literally halfway through the summer, I had a bunch of tomatoes up there that had not come up, and then all the ground cherries did not come up, and 2 ground cherries came up. So I stuck them in this pot and didn't think anything more of it. You can see the results now. We've been picking on this thing forever. The thing about ground cherries is it's super easy to know when they're ready, because they've got all these little lantern, paper-like lantern leaf coverings, and when they fall off and hit the ground, that means they're ready. There's a good example. Now if you take this, you peel it open, you'll understand why they call them ground cherries. Because they are the size of a cherry. Alright? Now, these are loosely related to like a Cape gooseberry. But a lot of people haven't had those, so I don't usually use that as comparisons. But you'll either love the flavor or you'll hate it. There is no in between. I have never found anyone that's like, yeah, either way. I personally like them. My granddaughter and my wife and my daughter-in-law, they could kind of be like, yeah, I'm not really into them. They are extremely fast at growing once they get going though. And they produce a lot. I mean, I'm just sitting here picking them up off the ground and eating them right now, but this is what I picked up the other day just before mowing, and I've been picking up about this amount off these 2 plants about every 3 days, and there's still a lot more on there. They can live through light, no light, low water. I mean, when I show you guys the ground they're in, you're gonna be like, how did anything grow in that? Because honestly, it was just a pot here that had a little bit of dirt in it, and I just jammed them down in there. And this is what happened. I mean, they don't get a lot of light back here. It's our first year growing them, so I just wanted to see, because everyone says that once these get started, they can kind of handle themselves. I don't necessarily want these growing back here in my backyard. It was just an easy place to do it. I plan on building an entire bed, and a lot of these that fall you don't get, and that ends up seeding for your next year. So my understanding is between the birds and the animals and them self-seeding that this can make a patch by itself pretty easy, which I thought would be really nice also back in the woods some to feed wildlife. So let's take a closer look at these. So as you can see, this is a very large pot, but if you look down in there, there really is not a lot of dirt in there. Now as you go down, you can see the ground cherries have started falling inside here, and we have actually tucked the plant back inside here trying to get them to stay in there. But you come out here and look at them in their hanging form, it's really kind of cool just to check them out in their little lantern type form, which is what I call it. But this thing grows all on its own. I don't water it, I don't mess with it, I don't touch it. Right now the soil is extremely dry and I just leave it alone. It's as simple as that. It takes care of itself. Now if you look on the outside of the pot, I can sit here and just keep picking them up. But like I said, see, there's a bunch of them just buried down in here. And that outside covering will keep them good. So it's fine if they fall down and you miss them for a while. But like I said, it's so easy, like that one right there, to just, you know, in the next year, that's going to get in the ground and come up. There's another one. And I just come out here and do this right before I get ready to mow and pick them all up. But as they fall, you know they're ripe. And for such a small pot with just 2 plants that gets 0 care, and honestly all that was in that was compost, there was no kind of fertilizer of any kind, these things have exploded. And I plan to take this into a larger scale next year. There's a good one back here. Come here. Oh, there's 2. They're gonna have their own bed next year. That way I can get them to kind of reseed themselves and keep going. Now, since they do like water, I'm probably gonna do the back to Eden like we do with most of the rest of our gardens and chip it over to hold in moisture and make them basically strong enough to take on any drought, even though I didn't have any mulch in there this year, and look how well they did. Now, you have to have heart, because if you try and start them indoors and they don't come up at first, don't give up on your plants. Set them outside, let them sit in the sun, and let them take off. Here in Ohio, about mid-August, this thing started to produce the fruit, and it is now probably mid-September, early September, and everything is falling and ready to start eating. As you can see, it's just as simple as a little squeeze gets rid of the little lantern and you can eat them. All right, so one of the main things I need to bring up about these is their nutritional value, because they have tons of minerals, different various nutrients, even some antioxidant properties. If you actually look up the specs on it, I'm not going to try and go into it because it's way too much to really sit down and just discuss. These things have amazing nutritional values. I mean, when I first started doing research on these, it blew my mind. I couldn't understand why everyone was raving about the nutritional values of these plants, but when you look it up, even after it's been processed and cooked into things like jams and such, it still has some amazing properties. And I find them to be a wonderful treat. I find them to be addictive personally. Obviously, like I said, it's, maybe you want to call it an acquired taste, maybe you want to call it, some people like them, some people don't, whatever. I find them to be delicious and a great refreshing treat, especially on a hot day or as I'm coming in on a cooler fall afternoon and looking for something to kind of, you know, munch on. If you're trying to do a crop with high yield values in a small area, this is probably the perfect plant if you find that you like the flavor of it. I've also seen a lot of people mixing these flavors with strawberries or cherries, or also rhubarb seems to go well with it too. So in the future, I want to try like a rhubarb pie with these in them, just to get that different kind of savory, sweet flavors with the sourness of the rhubarb all put together. I think that would be an amazing combination. But yeah, take a moment and consider trying to grow some ground cherries. I think we need to make it more prevalent in the Americas again. Do beware of things that just randomly grow outside that look like these, because obviously, like I said, this is part of the nightshade family. Let's not go out and eat stuff that's poisonous. Order your seeds from a well-known seller like we used in my gardener, and have faith, because We planted almost a whole pack of these and only 2 plants came up, so it takes time. Generally these are found to be more southern plant. We're here in Ohio and they grew just fine, and I will also be letting you guys know if it comes back next year in this pot by itself, because that's going to be important. Self-reseeding will be a huge point of whether I put these out next year in the woods in large patches or not. So we appreciate you guys coming along. Take a moment, join the family, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you can see all of our upcoming videos, and we will see you in the next one.